welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will show you how to implement authentication in Next.js using Clerk. We will cover how to set up Clerk, protect routes, and handle user sign-in and sign-up the right way. This tutorial is beginner-friendly and perfect if you are building modern Next.js apps. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So what is Clerk? Clerk is a complete authentication and user management solution for modern web applications. It provides ready-to-use UI components like sign in, sign up, and user profile, so we don't have to build everything from scratch. Clerk is secure by default, handling things like sessions and tokens for us. It integrates very easily with frameworks like Next.js, which makes setup fast and simple. It also supports multiple login methods such as email, Google, Facebook, and Apple. And finally, it gives us powerful tools to manage user profiles and sessions in our application. Now, let's start by creating a new Next.js application. Open your terminal and run the following command. This will create a fresh Next.js project with all the required setup. Now, before adding authentication, let's clean the default boilerplate code. First, go to app.tsx file. Here, Next.js gives us a lot of default content that we don't need. I will remove everything inside this file and keep only the basic structure so we can start fresh. This makes the project clean and easier to understand as we move forward. Next, go to global.css file. By default, it contains some pre-written styles. We don't need this right now, so I will remove all the CSS from this file. Now our project is completely clean and ready for authentication setup using Clerk. Let's move to Clerk and create our application. Open your browser and go to clerk.com. If you don't have an account, sign up, otherwise just log in. Once you are inside the dashboard, click on Create Application. Now here you can see multiple login options on the left side, and on the right side you can see a preview of the signing component. You can change the application name if you want and select the login and sign up methods you need, like Facebook, Apple, or any other option. Then click on Create Application. Here you can see multiple frameworks and languages like Next.js, React, Astro, iOS, and JavaScript. You can select the one that matches your project. For this tutorial, I'm using Next.js, so I will select Next.js. Now, here you can see all the steps to set up Clerk in a Next.js application. So let's follow the steps and set up Clerk. First, let's install Clerk. Now, let's set the Clerk API keys. Copy these keys and add them to the .env file. If the file doesn't exist, just create new one. Next, let's create proxy.ts file. One important note, as mentioned in the documentation, if you are using Next.js version 15 or below, you should name this file middleware.ts instead of proxy.ts. For this tutorial, I am using Next.js 16, so I will create proxy.ts file. Next, let's add the ClerkProvider to our app. For that, go to layout.tsx and wrap everything inside the ClerkProvider. Next, we will create our own custom authentication routes for sign in and sign up instead of using Clerk's hosted pages. This gives us full control over the UI and allows us to match the authentication pages with our application's design. Now, you might be wondering why I am creating routes like this. This is actually the recommended way when working with Clerk. It allows Clerk to handle all authentication related routes properly, like redirects and callbacks without any issues. And inside page.tsx, we will render the signing component provided by Clerk. Next, let's create the sign up route the same way we created the sign in route. This time inside page.tsx, we will render the sign up component provided by Clerk. Now, let's run our development server by running npm rundev and check our authentication routes. Now, let's go to sign in route. You can see that our signing component is rendered with all the sign-in options we selected, like Google, Facebook, Apple, and email. Now, let's go to the sign up route. You can see that our signup component is also rendered with options we selected. Now let's go back to VS Code and center these components so they look good. Now to take our pages take the full height, let's go to global.css and set the height to 100% for HTML body and root. Next, we also need to give full height to the root layout, including the HTML and body elements inside it, so that our pages take up the full height. Now, let's go to the browser and check. You can see that our components are now centered. Now, one more thing. Currently, if you click already have an account sign in on the sign up page, it takes you to Clerk's hosted sign in page. Similarly, if you go to sign in page and click don't have an account sign up, it takes you to Clerk's hosted sign up page. What we want is for these links to take users to our custom sign-in and sign-up routes. To do that, we need to change Clerk's redirect behavior. Open your .env file and add the following. This will ensure that all links now take users to our custom authentication pages instead of Clerk's hosted pages. Now, let's go to the browser and try this. You can see that if I click don't have an account, sign up, it takes us to our custom sign up route. Similarly, if I click already have an account sign in, it takes us to our custom sign in route. Next, let's create the main layout where we will add a navbar at the top. In this navbar, we will have sign in and sign up buttons so user can easily navigate to the respective routes by clicking on them. Now, let's create our navbar component. Now below the header, I will create buttons for navigation. For this, I will define a links data array and then map through it to render the buttons dynamically. In the data, I have added ID to uniquely identify each button, a path to navigate to, the text for the button, and the button variant. Since we are using TypeScript, let's create types for this data and assign them accordingly. First, let's create the button type which can be either primary or secondary. Next, we will create type for our links data. Now, let's map through our links data and render the buttons dynamically. Now to style the buttons, I will create base styles which will be common for both buttons. Then I will define variant styles for each button type. Now let's apply the styles to the buttons using template literals. Now let's go to main layout.tsx and render our Navbar component. Now let's go to the browser. You can see our navbar with the sign in and sign up buttons. Let's try navigating to the routes, and you can see that everything is working fine. Next, we will render the user button so that whenever a user is logged in, their author will be displayed in the navbar. Now let's go to the browser and sign in so we can see the logged in user button appear in the navbar. You can see that after logging in, the user button is visible. If you click on it, you will see the user details along with two options. Manage account, where you can update your profile like profile image and other details, and sign out. Now, in the navbar, both sign in sign up buttons and the user button are visible, which doesn't make sense. So what we will do is render them conditionally. If the user is logged in, we will show the user button, and if not, we will show the sign in and sign up buttons. To do this, we will use the useUser hook from Clerk and destructure user and is signed in from it. Now, let's render our sign in sign up buttons and the user button conditionally. If the user is not logged in, we will show the sign in sign up buttons. If the user is logged in, we will show user button instead. Now, let's go to the browser and check. Since we are currently logged in, the user button is visible. Let's try signing out. Now you can see that after signing out, the sign in and sign up buttons are visible. You can also display the username and adjust the author size. Let's go ahead and do that. To render the username, we will use user.fullname. To change the avatar size, we will use the appearance property of the user button. Now let's go to the browser. You can see that username is displayed and the avatar size has been increased. Next, let's see how you can secure your routes so only sign-in user can access them. Now let's create some dummy routes to demonstrate route protection. For the protected routes, we have dashboard and accounts. Only sign-in users should be able to access this. For the public routes, we have home and about, which anyone can visit without signing. This setup will help us clearly see the difference between routes that require authentication and routes that are open to everyone. Next, we will implement Clerk's authentication checks to ensure that only sign-in users can access the protected routes. Now, let's go to proxy.ts and implement Clerk's authentication checks. Now let's define our protected routes. We will use Clerk's create route matcher for this. The reason we use create route matcher is that it allows us to easily match multiple routes with patterns. So any route that matches our protected route patterns will require authentication. For example, in this tutorial we are protecting dashboard and accounts. So we pass dashboard and account to create route matcher. This makes it simple to check if a route is protected and redirect users to the sign-in page if they are not signing. Now, you might be wondering why I am using dot star in the route patterns. The dot star allows us to match all subroutes under a main route. For example, dashboard dot star will match dashboard, dashboard slash settings, dashboard slash profile, and any other nested routes automatically. In the Clerk middleware, we are using an async function that gets the authentication object using auth. Then we check if the current request is for protected route and if the user is not silent. If both conditions are true, we redirect the user to the sign-in page. Otherwise, we call next.response.next to allow the request to continue. Now let's go to the browser and try this. Right now we are logged in, so let's sign out and then try accessing the protected routes. You can see that when I try access the dashboard without sign-in, it takes us to the sign-in page. Now let's create a nested route inside the dashboard and try accessing that as well. You can see that when I try to access dashboard slash settings, it also takes us to the sign-in page. Now let's try accessing the public routes. You can see that we can access them without logging in. Now let's sign in and try accessing our protected route. You can see that we can now access the dashboard page. Let's also try dashboard slash settings, and you can see that this works as well. So this is how we protect our routes using Clerk in a Next.js application. With just a few lines of middleware, we can control which routes are public and which ones require authentication. This approach is clean, scalable, and works perfectly even for nested routes, making it ideal for real-world applications. And that's it for this video. We learned how to implement authentication in Next.js using Clerk, create custom sign-in and sign-up pages, add a navbar with user state, and protect routes using middleware. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more Next.js and full stack tutorials. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.